that's something I'm going to be talking a lot about today, is not losing energy. It's not, for most people, it's not about gaining energy, it's taking away the loss of energy throughout your throw. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Tristan Tanner, part of Team Latitude 64. Today I have a super cool video for you guys, breaking down my backhand form, giving you guys all the tips and tricks of how I throw and what can help you throw to the best of your capabilities on a backhand. Plus, I've got some really exciting news that I'm announcing at the end of this video, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But for now, let's get right into the video. Okay, so first things first, I'm just going to go through 2 full speed throws so you guys can just get a quick look at it before I start to get into all the details. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead, look back at this a little bit slower. I'm going to start off with the feet. The feet are the most important, or arguably the most important part of the throw, just because if they're going too fast or too slow, it's going to be really hard to time up everything else in your throw and get everything working as one, which is the ultimate goal for all throws in disc golf, is to just get your whole body working together and not have any parts that are letting you down. So starting off looking at my feet, I just take a couple steps into before the X step. So this is where I start my X step. Notice how I'm not too overextended on the X step. I'm actually just loading my hips back is the biggest part. So I'm not really trying to get any distance on this, which kind of adds to my slow run-up speed. But yeah, not trying to get a whole lot of distance on the X step. It's more just loading my hips and getting all of my weight on my left foot, which is preparing my body to brace and put all of that onto my front foot and load it forward to then eventually get up into the disc. My plant step, right here, notice how far left my plant step is. This is my target line out over here in this direction in between these 2 trees, and I'm planted pretty far off of that line. So right here is right about that line, and I'm pretty far right of that. I would not recommend planting that far right or that far left of the target line, but that's just what's comfortable for me. Most of these points that I'm going to talk about today are just personal preference, so find what works for you. It's not all going to work for everybody, so find somewhere in this range where you're planting left of the target line. If you're a right-handed player, it's going to be, all of these things are going to be opposite if you're a left-handed player. I'm sorry that I'm probably not going to specifically talk to you guys, but yeah, so planting away from the target line is just going to help you load your hips and better load the throw. Notice also how I have good strong foot position where I'm closed. My foot is closed. I'm not open towards the target. Open plant steps are another way to make your hips not be engaged in the throw. So try to get that foot planted at 90 degrees to the target, or even a little bit turned more closed than that. And that's another great way to help get your hips turned. Now after the release of the disc, coming in, so after the release of the disc, here you can see my foot is just rotating on the heel in one quick motion, and that is just to help prevent knee injuries, hip injuries, ankle injuries. It takes pressure off. I used to rotate on my toe, and that's fine. It works for some people, but I would not recommend it. Rotating on that heel is really just going to make it easier on your body and make it so you can play disc golf for the longest time possible, which is, in the end, what we all want. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to, let's see, I'm going to go a little bit farther forward into this angle so you can take a look at my feet from this angle. notice here the X step distance. I am getting that left foot turned, but I'm not getting it too far forward. I'm not really overextending. This is a pretty comfortable distance for me to do the X step, especially at the speed I'm doing it. It's really just comfortable. And then here you're really going to get a good look at that strong foot position. And look how it's kind of foot over knee, knee over hip, not perfectly because I do have a pretty wide stance when I'm throwing. But again, look at that strong foot position. We can also take a look at my back foot, the foot I'm pushing off of here. That as soon as that weight shifts forward, look at that weight shift. So from all the weight being on my left foot to all of the weight being on my right foot, which is really helping drive that disc or all the energy up into the disc. And then afterwards, I keep good balance on that. Balance is a big thing. Maintaining balance is just going to help all the energy go into the disc. If you have a big run up and you're falling off the end of the T-pad, going way forward after your throw, that's just a loss of energy. All of that energy is not getting transferred into the disc, and that could be a loss of, I don't even know, probably 20, 30, 40, 50 feet for some people. So really try to maintain balance at the end of the throw. I'm going to say one more thing about my back foot here. My back foot does go forward here, which is helping my hips stay loaded through the throw and not rotate too fast or too far through. And it's another thing that's going to help getting the energy into the disc and not losing any of that. That's something I'm going to be talking a lot about today, is not losing energy. It's not, for most people, it's not about gaining energy, it's taking away the loss of energy throughout your throw. So let's go back to this angle, and we're going to start to move up and talk about my hips. I've already talked about them a little bit, but we can see from the start of the throw, they're pretty neutral, and then here at the X step, they start to turn here. At the X step, they're fully turned right here when my right foot comes off of the ground. This large hip turn is really the biggest way that I get my distance from such a slow walk up. So notice how turned my hips are. They're almost pointed all the way away from the target. Again, I would not totally recommend this, but again, this is just what works for me. You're going to need to turn your hips to be able to throw far. It's just about how much is comfortable for you. This is a full power throw, so if I'm throwing putters or slower discs, lower power shots, I'm not going to be taking this big of a hip turn. But for distance shots, I do take a big hip turn. And then now we can look at my plant. As soon as I plant, my hips are still turned all the way back. The next frame here, one forward. Look at that hip turn. So my hips go from pointed almost all the way away from the target. Again, my target line is out over here. And then to pointed 90 degrees from the target. That acceleration and that drive is really important. But again, I'm not over-rotating my hips. I'm just rotating them to a point that can help accelerate the disc. And then after the throw, you can see that foot rotates and my hips turn towards the target well after the disc comes out of my hand. The disc is coming out of my hand in this frame, and we go 2 frames forward when the disc is way out up in this area to have my hips turned all the way towards the target. So keeping the hips loaded all the way through the throw is a big thing. We'll take one look at that from this angle. You can see hips are square to the camera now. It's starting to turn back here. Right here, big hip turn, pointed away from the target. And then right here, they start to drive through. So yeah, big hip turn is a great way to add power. It does take some getting used to and some control and practice to make it really work for you, but it's a great way to get a lot of power from a slow walk up. Okay, next we're going to look at the disc position. My disc position is a little bit unusual. It's different from most people. I tend to keep it a little farther away from my body just because it helps me load the disc into the pullback or the reach back that I like and what works for me. So we'll take a look at that now. Keeping the disc away from my body, I start to curl my wrist right here. Strong wrist position is a huge thing for this. So I'm going to talk about it in a couple different points here. This is just getting it set early to make it so my body has to do less correction when I'm doing my fast motions. So I'm getting my wrist curled. The disc is still away from my body. It doesn't ever get closer. Here I start to kind of do this little bit of cock, a little bit forward to then help me load the disc moving backwards. And then here, starting to go back. And then here is peak reach back. Look at the super strong wrist position. The disc is level with the ground, just right below nipple height is where my comfortable reach back is. I recommend people to find a reach back point that's somewhere between nipple height and kind of belly button or hip height. Works for most people. If you're a little bit outside of that range, it won't hurt you too much, but if you can try to keep it in there, that's what's going to work best for most people. Another thing you'll probably notice is how wide I am on my reach back. So I'm really far right away from my shoulder. So again, my target line's out here. My shoulders are turned very big and the disc is out to my right of my shoulders. This is because with how fast I accelerate my shoulders through, I need to keep that wide, they call that a wide rail reach back, and I keep that wide just so that I can get the disc into the power pocket. If I reached back more around my body in this area, I just wouldn't be able to get the same, get into the same position that I need to get the disc into the power pocket. So I reach out wide, allowing myself to still get the disc into the power pocket. And then we'll follow that. Notice how I get really fast acceleration right here in this one frame. Notice how the disc is going forward out of my hand. I'm not trying to pull my arm and really get into my follow through too fast. I'm letting the disc come out on that same straight line that I reached back on, out of my hand, and then my arm goes out to the right side, follows through flat because I'm trying to throw a flat shot here, so I'm following through right at shoulder level and letting my shoulder or letting my arm follow all the way around my body. This is where flexibility is a huge key, doing yoga, stretching, all of that stuff to allow your body to follow through and extend the way it needs to be able to. We'll take another quick look at that from this angle. Notice disc position right here, and then from this point here, the disc really isn't going to move too much. So it moves a little bit forward, right here. It pretty much stays in the same spot. I get that plant step, and the disc is moving forward right here. I've already started my shoulder turn. See my elbow starting to come through. So I'm really, from this point here, I'm moving my body around the disc, which helps take a lot of variables out. Notice again the strong wrist position right in this area. I'm not open wrist, I'm not too curled, but I'm in a good strong wrist position to help the disc come out spinning and nose down. And then following through here, you can see my arm in the follow through is nice and low. I'm not too high or too low. I'm following through on the line that I need to be for this throw, and then the arm coming all the way around. Again, that flexibility being a huge part of that. Okay, next I'm going to talk about my head position a little bit. We'll actually talk about it from this angle. So looking at my head, my eyes are on the target from here. Your eyes and your head really dictate what your body wants to do. Your body naturally wants to move where your head and eyes are going. Our head and eyes are the leader of our body. So really figuring out how to translate your eye and head position to really help guide your body to what you want to do really helps a lot. So eyes on the target here, keeping it in my mind all the way, eyes still on the target, still on the target. Here they start to turn away. So I'm not looking at the target anymore right here. I'm just kind of waiting for the disc to get to full reach back. My head position never gets all the way turned away. I'm not actually letting my head go towards the basket. I'm wanting to get my head towards the basket, but I'm not letting it, just letting it stay loaded. And then here, starting to go forward, the head stays in this same position. I can't quite get the frame to show you exactly my power pocket right here. Great. See how I'm driving through my arm. Look at this angle right here on the front. My shoulder and elbow are in a great brace position, all the way down to my hip, brace forward, left foot off the ground, allowing my hips to stay loaded through the throw. Knee is in a strong position. You can see my quad and up into my shin and calf are all engaged. Foot is good, strong position here to get loaded for the throw. And then just coming a little bit farther forward, after the disc is well out of my hand, see my arm is already in the reach back. Right here is where I'm actually looking at the disc. I would highly advise to try to not look for the disc until the disc is probably 100 feet out of your hand. It'll help you drive through the shot. If your head and eyes are trying to turn and really look where your shot is going, it's going to cause the disc to go nose up. You're going to get high releases, inconsistent releases. So try to keep that head down and not be anxious to look for the disc. Again, follow through, coming all the way through, keeping my eyes on my target. And that is pretty much it. I'm going to go over a couple more things just overall. Again, the feet. Another thing about my feet is I'm just keeping good tempo. I'm not going too slow or too fast. I'm going to go back to the full speed throws here. I am going slower than most people do, but that is just what is comfortable for me. It's a tempo that I have found that works for me, and everyone's tempo is going to be different. Everybody's body is different, so everyone's tempo is going to be different. Find something that works for you. I do think most people do need to slow down because it'll help people gain a lot of control. And obviously, with how I throw, there's no loss of power. If you do it right, you can still get the same amount of power even with a slow walk up and not doing the big run up that a lot of people see the pros doing, and they try to replicate that. A lot of those pros have been playing for 10 to 15 years, even more than that, and have really gotten used to that fast run up for doing it so long that it works for them. But I think most people would benefit from a slower, more controlled walk up. I'm going to go through the slow-mos just a couple more times. The feet are this nice slow pace. I'm just letting my X step load and then strong foot position into the throw. Looking at it again, that big hip turn is where I get a lot of my distance from. The wide reach back right out over here with the nose down, strong wrist position, big hip turn. Then you can see my right or my left arm driving down into the shot. A lot of my power comes from right in this area and that acceleration. So really, all the other stuff doesn't matter as much as long as you're hitting this area really well with the big hip turn and getting the disc into the power pocket properly. Then the follow through is just allowing the shot to continue and really driving through the shot, letting your body follow through the way you want, balancing on that right foot, and then you just get to watch the disc fly. So yeah, that is pretty much it for my backhand throw. I'm going to be doing another one of these for my forehands coming up in probably the next couple weeks. I am going to be going down to a shorter schedule or less often upload schedule. I'm just going to be trying to do once a week as opposed to the couple times a week that I've been doing because our tour season is starting up. But for now, I'll leave you guys here. I'm going to get it back to me again in a couple minutes so that you guys can check out my new announcement right now. Hey everyone, I'm super excited to announce the launch of TristanTanner.com. That's where all of my fundraiser discs and special runs of everything is all going to be housed, along with a whole bunch of other projects that I'm working on. Super excited for this. All my fundraiser discs are on the site right now. You can use the code TTVlogs, all capitalized, to get 10% off your guys' first purchase there. And yeah, I'm expecting them to go quick, so get on there and get them now. If you purchase by tomorrow, which is Monday, June 8th, you'll be entered automatically to win this, which is my Signature Series. It is on a recoil. There's also a Latitude 64 mask in there, which is super cool. So go ahead and order now. The site is up. Thank you guys all for the support, and we'll see you guys in the next video.